sure we got the right costume? It's not quite what I imagined, but no. Yeah, no. I like it. Okay. Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Taylor. I'm Taylor. I'm Pirate Taylor today because we are going to be talking about. Oh, that's right. My goodness, it's here. Sail Legacy. Before we go any further, I designed this game. Allplay sent me this copy. This whole month, I'm going to be covering games that are in the Kickstarter that is a part of Sail Legacy. So Sail Legacy is in a Kickstarter. Savage Bowl, Citrix, and I developed Citrix, designed this. So huge grains of salt. My goodness gracious. The 7 salty seas are about to go down. So this is the most biased video possible. It is surreal, though, to be holding this. As you'll see, we are going to go through kind of a playthrough of the first few scenarios, and it's going to be me opening and kind of playing through it also for the first time. Obviously, I designed it and I knew what was going into it, and I've seen a lot of the files, right? But I hadn't seen this edition. So huge grain of salt, but also this edition is kind of like an early prototype sent to video folks and other reviewers and such. And so this isn't final. In fact, its box size isn't even final. So take everything even you see with a grain of salt. I should say before this is a little bit of a sketch, but you know, it's classic weird. You can skip it if you want. But after, there are going to be the first 3 scenarios of Sail Legacy shown and spoilers. So if you don't want to watch anything spoilers at all, you can totally skip it. I'm going to be doing a as spoiler-free possible designer diary on this Bad Larry afterward. So you can definitely skip to that, and I think I do a pretty good job. But again, if you don't want any spoilers, I kind of skip the rest of this video. Maybe check out the Kickstarter page. That probably does a great job of not showing off too many spoilers. But I'm going to show off a little bit. I am someone who loathes spoilers. So if I were in your digital shoes, I would click out. But I know there's some of you who would like to see the first scenario or 2, get a sense of what Sail Legacy is. And also, there's so much more to not have been spoiled if you watch those first scenarios. So don't feel like you're going to spoil everything. If you do really want to dabble a little bit and check it out. And of course, yes, the designer diary is as spoiler-free as possible. So if you would like to see that, definitely check that out. This has been a dream to work on. Absolutely wild. I think what I'm wearing is as surreal as it was to work on this, and I'll go over more of that in the designer diary. But truly, thanks so much to everyone involved. This is wild. It's surreal to be holding. So thanks so much, and thanks so much for checking out the Kickstarter. I hope you dig it. I hope you get a chance to peruse that page. It's already chock full of the gills of all these, because it has Savage Bowl and Citrix too, which are wonderful. We'll have videos for that afterward as well. So without further ado, well, I guess it's gonna be a weird sketch, but there'll be a wee sketch, and then without further ado, it'll be the first few scenarios of how to play Sail Legacy. All right, catch you later. Bye.
Look at all these scallywags. Remember back in the day when we used to have the Jolly Roger roaming around? We gotta bring back the Jolly Roger. I went to the Atlantic Center and couldn't even find a single ship. I tried to do some modern pirating and I got a virus on my stinking laptop. Life has gotten too soft. Vitamin C in little jar tablets? Come on. We gotta get back to a time when a national bird was a seagull and the national food was tack. None of these people know how to turn a knot to a sailor's switch to a portman bow on the stern for the back starboard. Back when I had 5 friends and they had 7 eyes. This life has gone too soft. Everybody with their iPads and iPods. We need more eye patch. I'm an orange man. All these apples make me sick. I'd give up every computer to bring back the Jolly Roger. We need to start the Jolly Roger or something. There's no fun. There's no adventure anymore. There's no grand tales on the seven seas.
You should cheer up. There's still Legacy after all.
Ha! That's the only leg I see. More like Peg Legacy.
No, really, look.
What?
Here we are for the Teach for Sale Legacy, and so a few caveats. Like I said at the top, this is prototype components. This box size probably will change. You'll see some things in here that are not final. Keep that in mind. Also, I'm going to teach this in a few different chunks. I'm going to teach a 1 through 3 scenario kind of flow where I'll just be running through it. Then I'm going to teach the second scenario, which I think is more what makes Sale Legacy new and kind of getting off onto fun new things. I'm going to teach that kind of like you're at a demo table at a con. And then after this, I am going to, after the third scenario, I'm going to stop. And the next video that is more spoilers is going to cover, I think probably like 4 through 6, 7, 8 or so playthroughs of that. And I'm going to try to keep things minimal and alert you when there's spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers, definitely skip this. You can go watch the design diary, and that has mostly spoiler-free discussion as well. But if you really don't want any spoilers, this video from here on out will probably not be your favorite video. But with all that said, we are just going to jump into scenario 1. So without further ado, this will be an opening of this preview copy and playing through scenario 1. And although I know what's going to happen, I designed the game, I actually haven't looked through this a lot. So if I open it here, you'll probably see some components of that are sealed still. As you can see here, the sticker is mostly still intact. Oh, there it goes. But I have not gone through here. So you're going to actually be witnessing me experience it alongside you. So you have a bunch of different boxes with cards and decks and maybe tokens. It's funny because I mixed of knowing what's in here and knowing what's not in here. And then you also have a bunch of these pouches, which I'll probably just keep in here until I need to get them out. I should say a note about the Sharpies. They're only included just because this version, this preview version, was incorrectly printed on kind of dry erase paper. And so the actual version will be on paper that can be written on by pencil or pen or even Sharpie. So these Sharpies are just included because they definitely work on this type of paper. But that's all that for now. So I am going to move some components off and I'll just bring them in from now on. So these are actually just going to go off screen. Also, as a note, you're actually going to read the rulebook and then read the logbook and kind of go back and forth as you learn the game. But I'm going to cover that for now. I'll just be like teaching you the game. But I will read some of the logbook because that is the story in the game. So we'll actually start at the very top of the logbook. It says stop. If you haven't already read the introduction in chapter 1 in the rulebook, do that now. But that we have, and I'll just be teaching you that as we go. And so it actually sends us back to the beginning, the start of the very first scenario, so we can jump right into the action. It starts off with a story here about Elle and Joe, the two parent pirates. And their situation is they are world-renowned pirates. They have this back and forth banter that essentially says, hey, what are we going to go do? We're going to go steal some more treasure. So it tells us to, after that story, unlock cards 1 through 6. Each player is going to choose a pirate card, choose and name your ship, and then also set aside the 3 treasure cards for now. Don't flip them over and then continue reading. So let's do that now. So we're going to open this. So here we have the various cards. As you can see, amazing Weberson Santiago art. It says to set aside the treasures for now. So we're just going to put those over here. And then we have the 2 pirates, and they're double-sided. So you can kind of choose which side you want. And on each of them, there is, zoom in here, they have hand sizes, they have trick limits, and an ability. So if you're familiar with Sail, which if you're not, I have a video on that, but also if you are not, this will be a good introduction to Sail, so no worries at all, so we can just totally keep going. But how it works is, this is going to be how many cards you're dealt, this is how many tricks you can take before the round is over, and then finally, yes, an ability. Like this ability is super simple. It just says your starting trick limit is 5 instead of 4. As you can see, it's crossed out and says 5. And then as captain, when you are moving the ship, if your partner plays the same rank as you on the card, you can move straight. That is awesome. So each player is going to choose one of
or which pirate they want. So maybe this person over here is Elle and this person over here is Joe. And then finally, the ship. You have your ship. So we're going to write down a name for the ship. Let's name it. Like I said at the top, I am nervous of messing up the filming of this, so I'm going to use impermanent stuff, but you should use permanent stuff because you're not filming a YouTube video. So let's call it permanence. Oh no, not a word I'm not good at spelling. Let's do perm. Let's call the boat perm. So on the boat, you are going to have, like I covered here, the ship's name. You're going to have a maximum life, and then also it has the tiles that players are going to be using on the map, which I'll show here in a little bit, but it shows player start, destination, an event, and some rocks. So now let's put perm off to the side right there. And then now we're going to continue reading. And I just realized in real time, what's the fun of me summarizing the story? Let me read at least a couple of passages. So here we are, 1 week later. See there, an island, there it is. It had only been a few days, but Elle felt like they'd aged a year. Rather than unload their new loot, the pirate pair had dragged the ship across the waters to a secret island. Ooh, I can't say that. Avio mia marito, Elle replied. That's wonderful. Delightful Evelyn. Just one little problem. Do ye see those breakers? How do we get our poor ship over the reefs without being stranded here? Elle's bells, my darling. Who's the best navigator in all the 7 seas? Joe grinned when Elle rolled their eyes. They wanted to get home, but they also knew that when Joe got an idea, well, those hunches, had never steered them wrong yet. ... Joe and Elle entered the cave in one piece, thanks to Elle looking over the maps and deciphering the traps that would have taken a nasty bite out of them. There were 3 items, each on a pedestal. Joe looked at Elle, who frowned. This wasn't in any of the lore. Guess we're going with my hunch, Joe grinned and grabbed from the pedestal. So now it says to choose one of the 3. Oh, Perm got stuck to one of the cards. Or maybe that is fate. Maybe that's the one we should take. But so now it says for players are going to choose one of the 3 treasures and place it near your ship and trash the other 2 cards. And I should say, trashing in this game means you're going to take the card and put it in Davy Jones's locker. As you can see, whoa, something's peeking out of there. So let's say, you know what? I think Perm was right. I think Perm chose correctly. We're going to choose the crown. So we're going to take these other 2 and put them into Davy Jones's locker. That is trashing in this game. And that says to continue reading. Whoa, if I could get this in. A low rumble shook the ceiling, jarring those loose stalactites, which slammed down all around him. My love, it was the first time for everything, and I'm going to say it was the worst time for one of our hunters to be wrong. Run! Elle grabbed their partner's hand and dashed for the mouth of the cave as the ground around them shook. They barely made it to their ship as the rocks crashed around them. Unlock tail card 1 to 2. Those are your action references. So now we're going to go into this big old deck of cards. It also says to unlock action cards 1 through 15. That's your action deck. And then finally unlock the cargo hold, which is this, and take out some hidden surprises. So first and foremost, we're going to unlock the tail cards 1 and 2. These are our action cards. So if you have played Sail, these look maybe a bit familiar, maybe not. But as you can see, you have actions and reserve actions. I'll explain how those work once we get to the gameplay. So these are kind of like player aids for the players. And then next it says to get out action cards 1 through 15. So I'm going to grab those now. Here we are. And again, if you've played Sail, these might look familiar, but also new. As you can see, wonderful new art from Webberson, who just absolutely killed it, especially these. These cannons are now getting spicy. So we have the 8 in wheel, 7 in wheel, 6, but then also the 5s and 4s in cannon. And there is our action deck. We're going to set that to the side. And now it says open up the cargo hold. So we're going to open up this cargo hold and out comes... We have these, which I'll explain later, but essentially they are water tiles that you can use to cover up spots that might not be what they were and are now water. So put that off to the side. Oh, don't want to cover up Perm. And then now we have tokens. So now we have our ship token, our ship life tokens, and the round tracker. So we're going to pull those out. So we're going to be using those very soon. Next, it says to grab the atlas, ooh la la, and this is going to have all of the scenarios. So we're going to flip to the first scenario at the beginning. It has a goal. It has what section you're going to read in the logbook for both the start, the goal end, during a map event. Sometimes you'll pass certain rounds and you'll read there. Sometimes you might get to 0 life and want to read what happens when you have no life anymore. There's a discard, there's a reserve, which I'll explain, and then here we are, the map. So this might look a little similar if you've played Sail, but if not, this is how we are going to be traversing this scenario. So you are going to set this up in between the players as such. You're going to take your new ship, Meeple, and you're going to put it on the start space facing out, and then you're going to take the cubes for life. You're going to put them on your starting life, which was over here. It was 7. So you're going to put that there. And then finally, you're going to take the round marker, put that on the very first round. So here we are. We're actually about to play our first scenario of Sail Legacy. So it's called The Beginning, fittingly. But as you can see, the goal is to reach the destination. That is the home. The pirates are trying to get home. And they're starting at this cave here. Interesting. There is a start space. These are rocks. And the new thing in Sail Legacy, which is different than Sail, is if your ship runs into rocks, it's going to actually lose a life. Oh no. But how are we going to be moving? How are we going to be playing? Well, it's all has to do with this action deck. To continue setting up the game, you're going to get your current deck. You're going to shuffle it. You're always going to deal 2 cards to the reserve. Boop. That is useful for this action, which I'll explain in a little bit. And then you're going to shuffle the cards, and starting with the player who is closer in this round marker. So the 1 is closer to this player. So Joe's going to deal to their other player and go back and forth until either they've hit their hand size or they're out of cards. So notice, as you can see, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7. Players are not at their full hand size. That is unfortunate, but they'll make it work. So L is going to have 7 cards, and Joe is going to have 6 cards. And then after you deal, players are going to simultaneously exchange a card. And how that works is you're going to look at their hand. So maybe this is L's hand, and they think it'd be best to maybe pass over this 4. So it's simultaneous. So maybe L just passed over this card, and Joe got a 6 back. And then now, after the exchange, starting with the player who's closest to the diamond here, they're going to lead to the first trick. This is a trick-taking game, so both players are going to play a card to the trick, and then depending on the symbols on that card, players are going to possibly do an action, which we'll cover. So let's jump to the first example here. So maybe this player plays a 4 in the red cannon. So coming to L's hand, it is must follow, so they have to play red. Also, if you can see the banner here, the banner is a line, so the banners are kind of the suits on the cards, if you will, but also the color in the background. So this player, L, would have to play one of these 3 cards. Maybe they decide to play this 8. So how it works is, if the 2 symbols match, there's a cannon and a wheel, you are going to do an action. Let's look. So cannon and a wheel. So this says there is an action that corresponds to that. You're going to flip the top card of the reserve and take the matching reserve action and then discard the card. On the back here, we have reserve actions. So we're going to flip over the top card of the reserve into the discard, and it's a wheel, which is wonderful because as we look here, the wheel says you're going to move ahead toward either player. So now you're going to look at the ship, and the ship can now go toward either player. Maybe they both chat about it, and L decides, hey, let's move toward me. So how movement works in Sail is, notice these diamonds here. If a player wins a trick, it's going to move the ship toward them. If you do a reserve action like we just did, you can choose which way, which is different from Sail, by the way. And in Sail Legacy, you can choose which way. So maybe L says, let's move it toward me. The person who played the highest of the lead suit is going to win the trick. They're going to take this trick and put it in front of them. And then they're going to lead to the next trick. So maybe they lead with an 8. The Joe player follows suit. They're going to do the same thing. Flip that. Another 7. That's wonderful. They're going to take that and lead it over there. That's 2 tricks for L. And now L's going to lead again. L's going to lead with a 6 of wheels. So when you're off suit, the players can play whatever they want. And maybe this player plays a 6. And what's interesting is if they had played the 7, let's just rewind it a little bit. Since it's off suit, it won't win. this player will still win, but it will still trigger the symbols. So cannon, cannon, wheel will move one toward the player, and it's a forced movement. So if they did play the 7, it would have moved, and it would have hit that rock there. And if that would have happened, they would have lost a life, boop, and gone back to that original spot. They would have just crashed into the rocks. That would have not been good. So instead, when Joe decided to play this 6, notice what that did was it triggered L's ability. So again, if we reread L's ability, when you move the ship, if your partner played the same rank as you, you may move straight ahead. That is amazing. Those are both 6s, so this is going to move straight ahead. This still counts as this player winning the trick, and maybe they're like, ooh, I could, let's see. They're thinking they already have too many tricks as it is. Maybe they decide to play that 6. Coming over here, this player does not have a red, so they're going to play that. It's not the same number, unfortunately, but it still does move 1 up. So players are there, and this is now the 4th trick for L, so that is going to end the round right away. Here we are at the end of round phase, and players are going to start it off by moving this round tracker to the next round. And if it ever crosses a storybook, you're going to go into the story, and you're going to read said story. So it says 2 here, so we're going to go 2-2 and see what's going on. And it says, "Dump the treasure," screamed Elle. "We won't make it if we're this heavy." Joe ran below to start dragging the chest topside. They both had the same thing on their mind. They had to get home and take the children farther inland. With this shaking, it could cause a tsunami that would flood their cabin. And then there was that monster, ... So now, things are getting spicy. We have unlocking action cards 16 through 18. So as you can see, the tentacles are coming out from underneath. Here we are. We have the tentacle symbol now. They have awakened something that doesn't look too good. They come in the 3 suits. They're the 3s and their tentacles. We'll toss them over there for the deck. Now, each player is going to add 1 sticker from the sticker to their action reference and continue. So I actually haven't opened these yet. This is exciting. Look at that. Ooh, I don't know why every time I open something I'm trying to not damage it, but we're just going to damage it. Why not? It's a legacy game. What am I doing? Trying to cover it so it doesn't spoil. We now have these new stickers. I'm going to take them off and add them to the reference card. And here we are. We have Wheel Tentacle. And what this does is, ooh, that's not, I'm not the best at putting stickers on. You're going to take 1 damage, but you're actually still going to move toward the trick winner, which is interesting. So some movement, but definitely a little bit of damage. And what could that mean for Tentacle? Well, oh boy, that's right. Take 2 damage, but then still move toward the tentacle winner. Oof. And we continue on with the story. Looking back, the pirate pair watched as the most terrible creature they had ever witnessed rise from the waters. Towering above the topsail, a monster of lore, a monster of nightmares, roused from its slumber. As the ship grew lighter, their boat flew over the water, but the monster gave chase. Whoops, just noticed a spoiler up there. Sorry about that. It now says to open envelope A. Here we go. And inside is... What is this? Mystery monster. It says place this monster onto the player's starting space and then flip over your treasure card. Here we are. This says, now read how the NPCs work in the game. So I will just explain this. How it works is there are going to be NPCs, maybe friendly, maybe not, who knows, in the game. And what they're going to do is they're usually going to try and target a certain spot and get there as fast as possible. Maybe attack, maybe not. They do different things, but they'll have a life, they'll have a speed, they'll have like an attack value. So in this one, we have just unlocked the ... monster, and it is trying to move to the right of your ship. And if it's adjacent to your ship, it's going to attack you and actually push you 1 space away. And how pushing works in this game is if you get rammed into other NPCs or a rock or something, you're going to take damage. If it's an NPC, you're both going to take damage. Oof. And I'll show how movement works, but for now, we have just unlocked our first NPC of the game. After reading a logbook entry and doing anything it tells you to do, you're going to finish the end of round phase, which is collecting all the cards and getting ready to shuffle and deal for the next round. Now, after setting up the second round, since we added those 3 tentacles, which was boo bad, we at least have 8 cards each after the deal. So again, they're going to simultaneously exchange cards. And then we're going to start with Elle, who's going to lead into the very first trick now, maybe with a 6 in red. Coming over to Joe, maybe they play a 7 in red and move the ship a little closer to them. Then they decide to play an 8 in green, and they win another one. Nice. Coming to Joe again. They definitely want to win at least one more, they're thinking, so they're going to play the 7 in green. But what's interesting now is the L player, now with the new action, they could play the 3. It would damage them once, but it would move them to where they're hoping to go. But they think, oh, I could do the 5, and we can choose with this flip. It's a little risky, though, because that might not be what they want. They might flip a symbol they don't want, but they're going to go for it. So they're going to flip this. It was a cannon symbol, so it doesn't do anything for now. It just goes to the discard. So then Joe is going to take that trick, but it didn't really do anything for them. Joe is going to play a 6, and following suit, oh no, L is going to take that trick. Oh geez, so it's going to move them into the rocks, and they are going to lose 1 damage. That was unfortunate. And then L is a little nervous. They're hoping that maybe they still have some green left. They're going to play the 4. Currently, as you can see, the cannon tentacle does not do anything, but that will likely change. Spoiler alert. So that is the 4th trick for Joe, but again, they have 5 trick limit, so they're going to try to do one last Hail Mary and maybe play that 4 there. They're going to have L take it, and L did that, so they're going to flip this. And sadly, it was a cannon. So I guess the right move was, sadly, in the end, that tentacle play. That does nothing, and that is going to end it for the round. So now, since we have an NPC out, we have a new NPC phase that we're going to cover, and that happens afterward. So before the end of the round, the NPC is going to move, and how they move is, again, they're trying to reach a target space. So this target space is to the right of the ship. So it's going to be right there. And they're just trying to get to the spot. And the current movement for the monster is going to be 3. There's currently a typo where it says it will move equal to the round number, but that's a typo. It'll be 3 in the final product. After you know how much an NPC moves, so 3 in this case, you're going to move it to try and get to that spot as efficient as possible. And so straight would be the most efficient. Yes, that's right. NPCs can move straight. They are fast. Get ready. But if it's blocked like this rock here, NPCs are actually going to move clockwise to try to get to their spot as best as possible. So since it's blocked here, they can't go straight, but they're trying to get here, so they're going to go that way. And then they're going to do the evaluation again. They're going to try to go straight because that's closest to their spot. So they're going to go 2. That's their second move. And then 3, their final move is going to go right there. Then afterward, they're going to see if they can attack and push it. The action says if they're adjacent to their ship, they would attack, but thankfully they are not. They are a little bit away. They're about 1 space away. It's getting a little close. So that was the end of the NPC phase. So now, again, we're going to move at the end of the round to here, which has unlocked a new logbook entry. The sails were loose, and not a moment too soon. More tentacles emerged from the dark waters, curling and grasping to reach the aft of the ship. So thankfully, the sails are loose, so both players are going to get +1 hand size. Then we're going to unlock more action cards from the deck. So that's 19 through 21, which I don't know if you could have guessed it, but those are the 2s in the 3 suits. Oh no, more tentacles, oof. But at least we are loosening the ships, and so our hand size is going to boost up by 1. So now we both are going to have 9 as a hand size from now on, which is very good. So now both players are going to have 9 from now on, and whenever you do a stat increase, you're going to cross it off, kind of like it has here actually. So 4 gets crossed off to 5. You're going to cross it off and add the next one next to it. So now Joe has also a hand size of 9, just like L. So similarly, we're going to collect the action deck, shuffle, deal, we'll do an exchange, and then we'll get right back in to round 3 at the tricks phase, right and ready to rear to go. This is the first time this has happened, but we now have 9 cards to each player. We already put our 2 there at the start when we were dealing, and we have leftover. And any leftover, boop, go onto the top of the reserve. So now players are going to exchange. And after the exchange, it again starts with the player closest to the diamond. So Joe is going to start it off. So they definitely want to win. So they're going to play with the 8 of wheels because I think things need to start going. And they did. So that is wonderful. So now Joe is hopefully maybe going to lose? Question mark. Maybe they're going to play the 6 of green. And L is going to capture that. Wow, it's like I'm good at trick taking. It's also pretty good to play one player game that is meant for 2 players. You kind of get a lot of information that way. So Joe is going to play the 8. And I think at this point we kind of learned our lesson. I think or sorry, L will play the 8. Joe is going to play the 3. They're going to take the damage, boink, but I think it's worth it. I guess we think it's worth it. Joe thinks it's worth it to take that move and move us 1 more. So that is now the second trick for L, and now L is going to, maybe they play the 4 cannon. And so Joe's going to take that and flip the reserve card into the discard. That was a tentacle. It doesn't do anything now, but Joe is feeling okay that they might be able to keep moving. I think the plan that we have not talked about is we're trying to get to the event space. We don't know what's there. Nobody does, but they are going to find out right now. They decided to take, again, another damage, but we have moved on to the event space. I was going to take that trick over there, but now, immediately, you're going to read the logbook for the map event. The monster was so fast, but Joe and Elle didn't get to be famous pirates without being nimble, and sometimes a little reckless. They steered the ship toward the ripples they saw in the distance and found a mermaid tangled in some fishnets, struggling to get free. Other mermaids surrounded her, trying to help, but only causing her to panic more. Do you try to cut her free, or do you head straight for home? Help, unlock tail card 3, leave, unlock tail card 4, continue the scenario. What would you do? Let's say they're just going to leave. Interesting. So they decided to leave. They're going to open up the tail card 4. And how this works is it's going to tell a little bit of what happens left behind. The monster was almost upon the ship. Elle wished they could help the mermaid, but their family had to come first. They gave Joe a look, and they knew what must be done. Flip the card now. So this is going to have ramifications. Sure, why not? I'll show it. Spoilers. As the ship sailed past, Joe tossed his fishing knife into the water, hoping a mermaid would spot it. The small kindness did not ease the pirate pair's guilt as the mermaid sang a melancholy tune at their back. Choose one player to take all the tricks they've won this round into their hand. Players exchange one card, and the player with more cards is the captain for the next trick. Trash this card. So this card goes into Davy Jones's locker. And then now, players get to choose who wants to take all the tricks into their hand. So Elle had 2, and maybe they're thinking that's best because there's just a lot of rocks that way. So yeah, maybe it's Elle. So Elle's going to take cards. Players are going to now exchange. Maybe they pass this one over to Joe. And Joe's going to just pass this over. And then now the player with the most cards is going to lead. So then Elle is going to play the 7. So then there's that 6. It's going to move over that way. So now that's actually Elle's first trick, funny enough. They're going to play this 8. Coming over here. Hoo boy. Yeah, they'll try to risk it with the flip. The flip didn't do anything that round. Oh no. But maybe there's more to come. So now that Elle knows they're offsuit, maybe they do that. They're just going to play that. That's going to move them once, but take 1 damage. Oh no. And then Elle is going to... Oh boy. They're a little nervous because they don't have any wheels anymore, and their nerves are going to take a lot of damage. So maybe they just play that 4. They play the final card. That does nothing. But it does end the round because Joe is now out of cards. And also, that was Elle's 4th trick, so double round end. So now the NPC is going to move. They're going to move 3. Again, they're trying to get to there. So they're going to move 1, 2, 3. It's getting spicy. Then we're going to read the logbook for 4. Even with the wind at their back, the accursed beast swam faster than Joe and Elle could make headway. Its tentacles grabbed at the sides of the boat as quick as they could fire the cannons to get them off. Elle glanced down the hold and saw the ship was taking water upon the attack. Add cards 22 through 24. Oh boy, things are getting not too great for our pirate pair. Here we are at the start of round 4. They've already done their exchange, and they are a little bit nervous, but they are going to take it in stride. So starting with an 8, Elle is hopefully maybe going to win, and Joe's going to play the cannon, which flips to reveal a cannon. Oh no, not good. Elle is going to try it again, and out comes their first tentacle hit. Oh no, so they're down to 2, but they do move once. And so now Elle is going to
try to lose a lead. So maybe they play the 5 of green, question mark. So Joe is going to, Joe's going to take that trick, flip this, and they do get to move any way they want, which is perfect. They're going to move toward that way. And then Joe's going to play the 8, coming to, oh no, that's another damage. Oh no. Joe's getting nervous. Okay. Oh gosh. Maybe Joe does one more, hoping that they're short suit. They're not short suit. They take another damage. They are at 1, I believe, if I've been tracking that correctly. But they just need to move one more. Maybe Joe does that. And L plays the cannon. And if this is a wheel, they win. They sadly don't. That is Joe's 1, 2, 3. Oh, 4th trick. They can do one more. And sadly, L only has cannons left, so they don't win. Moving to the NPC phase, the NPC moves 3, 1, 2, 3, and now they are adjacent. They are going to attack for 2 damage and push them, which sadly lowers their ship to 0 and cascades them off into the rocks. Sad ending, but when a scenario ends, either when you reach the goal, you reach the end of the rounds, the number of rounds, or when you get 0 life, like we've done here, you're going to read the respective entry. So we are going to go to number 8. L brought their ship around for one last sprint to shore, but their ship had taken too much damage. This monster slammed into the port side and they heard a crack. The main mast tumbled into the ocean and sank below. The hull held for a moment longer, then water gushed in, sinking the ship. Joe thought about their little minnows at home, waiting for their parents to get back. They closed their eyes, hoping Theseus would be strong enough to raise them. ... Look, a monster! The little child said, looking out the window. Yes, I'm sure it's a great beastie, said Theseus, stirring the stew from the stove. But then he heard wood cracking, like a thunderous snap of a tree in a hurricane. He rushed to the window to see his precious ship, with its even more precious passengers, split in two. A horrifying monster dragged it under. He wanted to scream, grab his blunderbuss, and run to the waters to fight a unwinnable battle. Instead, he turned to the 2 little faces in front of him. Pack your things quickly, me loves. We need to get to my workshop. Step lively. He could see the older one understood and was trying to hold back tears, but the younger one still looked at the window. Uncle Theseus, there's grass growing in the water. He looked again. The ship and monsters already sunk out of sight. Instead, poking out of the water were dozens of tentacles waving in an imaginary breeze. Well, okay. Say goodbye to L and Joe. We hardly knew ye. Trash your ship card, both pirate cards and both reference cards. Flip the NPC card back to the treasure side and place it into the cargo hold. When ready, turn to scenario 2 in the atlas and start log entry. So we're taking the pirates, their reference cards, and the ship. Goodbye Perm, I guess you were in Perm. And these are all going to go into Davy Jones's locker. Now we're going to take the treasure, it says to flip, onto the crown side and put it into the cargo hold. So we just completed scenario 1, and before we go into scenario 2, I'm going to teach that one as if we don't kind of know what happened in this one, because that scenario 2 is going to be kind of like, if you don't want any spoilers for anything that happens, you can kind of just see what is new in Sail Legacy with that scenario without kind of getting that first chapter spoiled. So I won't kind of reference what just happened to poor Joe and Elle. We're just going to go into chapter 2. But then after that, we're going to do chapter 3, and I'm going to do full, like you've played 1 and 2, spoilers. I hope that makes sense. It's for folks who just want to know what is kind of new in Sail Legacy without knowing any of like the story and all that type of stuff. Okay, on to scenario 2. Before we set up scenario 2, for those who have been around for scenario 1, this is actually 15 years later. Ooh. Welcome if you are learning how to play Sail Legacy and don't want to see too many spoilers. This is a great scenario to jump in. It's funny enough, scenario 2, which is just going to show off a lot of the fun new things in Sail, but I'm actually going to go through it, and like a playthrough, I'm going to show it off that way. So in Sail Legacy, there's a logbook that I'm going to read from now. And so it starts with, you wake up in your hammock, the smell of sawdust and tar in the thin air, a familiar scent. Your uncle Theseus must be working on his newest masterpiece. You kick the hammock next to you and you hear a grunt from inside. Go away, I'm sleeping. You nudge the cocoon again. Show a leg. It's today. We're finally going to get our own ship and start working. There's a whirlwind next to you as your sibling explodes from the hammock, throwing on their clothes and running out the door. You chase after them. Open. Ooh. Envelope B and take out the pirate boards. And then you also unlock some tail cards and some other side cards that I will unlock as we go. So in Sail Legacy, if you have not watched the first scenario, there are envelopes and such that you will open, and inside there are some surprises. So I'm going to throw off to the side envelope B for now, and now you have your pirates. So as you can see, there's going to be a slot to put those in. That will make sense. You're going to have some traits. You're going to have a hand size and your trick limit. This might be familiar if you played Sail. And then some actions. So Wheel moves ahead toward the trick winner. The tentacles that we are now very fond of, they do a move, but then you take a damage. That's different in Sail than Sail Legacy. Also, what's new and different is Cannon now fires cannons toward the winner. And then, if you didn't watch the first scenario, Wheel Cannon actually is what flips the reserve now instead of Cannon, because that is, as you can see, we are shooting. And then reserve actions, we have a new one now of firing cannons toward either player. So just like how the movement is toward either player when you flip in the reserve, you now have a cannon that shoots toward either player. Besides the characters, the envelope actually has some other stuff in it, but I'm going to not reveal that for now. We're just going to set it up to the side. After that, you're also going to get out some tail cards. Some of the cards that you pull out are going to be task cards, but some of the cards that you pull out are going to be all different pirates. And so you're going to choose any two. Players are going to choose which ones they want. Let's let Trick play as this person. They're 21. Ooh, is there a drinking age back then? Who knows? And then let's choose Table to be this player. So you're going to take the rest and trash them. And again, in this game, when you trash cards, they go into Davy Jones's locker. In they go. And then now you're going to be tasked with naming your pirate. Oh, and I said this was Table? Yeah, let's do that. So there's Table. And then they're also going to get a hobby. And so it could be anything. Let's say trick taking. They love, I'll just say tricks. And then who did I say this was? Oh, this was Trick. That's funny. Their hobby's tricks, but should probably be tricks. But let's say, yes, this was Trick. And then 21. Let's say their hobby is bartending. I just wrote bar. Well, going to the bar is their hobby. Oof, starting early. But that's a pirate's life. And then you are going to take your pirate and you're going to slot your pirate into the given player board. There we go, nicely. And the same for Table over here. Now that we have that all set, we're going to continue on to the reading. Look at your fresh faces, grumbles Theseus as he sees you arrive. I should have made it another year. He scratches his tangled beard with his grubby hand. No, you promised. All right, I did it that. But before you go on sailing, you're going to have to get some experience. You really have no skills, and it's time I trained you up. So, now, depending on your favorite hobby, players are going to get tasks. And you're going to choose whether your hobby is mostly physical or mostly mental or both. So this hobby here is tricks. Yeah, let's say that's a mental hobby. So since it's a mental hobby, you're going to shuffle. You're going to randomly get a mental task. We got task number 3. This is just placeholder text. But essentially what you're supposed to be doing is having a task. And when you lead, if you lead with a blue card, you're going to cross this off every single time you do it. And once you've achieved that, you're going to flip over this card and see what's on the back. So this is now this player's card. And then over here, we said bar. Bar was their task. Let's say it's a physical task. It could be mental. If it was mental, you just get one of these 2 mental ones. But let's say it's this one. And so their new task, let's actually say it's this one. Their new task is now leading with a 5. So this person wants to lead with a 5. There's a variety of other things you can have. And then you're going to trash the other ones that you do not use into Davy Jones's locker. If the task is both mental and physical, you can just choose whichever one you want. It's a fun little conversation to have. Once you have the task cards, which again are kind of like individual goals that you're trying to accomplish, now you can keep reading. And we have, you enter the barn to see the project your uncle has taken over a decade to complete. Sitting on the keel blocks is your parents' ship, restored in some places and rebuilt in others. Ain't it a beaut? I built it up better than the first. Learned a few tricks over the years, didn't I? What'll you call her? No, it says to take out the ship. Ooh la la. And the sea chart board. So let's put this fully in frame here. Look at that. It says to name your ship now. Well, we used to have the perm. Let's call it the imperm. Now, as you can see on the ship, it has 10 life, a shooting range of 1, an attack of 1, and you have the simple rudder, the brand new little twist to your ship. Your ship can now turn 180 degrees before any trick. Ooh la la. You have a repairs track that you're going to mark with a check every time your ship gets to 0 life. And then right here, as you can see, this is where your cannons are going to shoot. So if the player up here wins a trick with cannon, it's going to shoot up there. If the player down here does, it'll shoot right there. Obviously, more spaces for other places. And then you have the map. This is going to keep track of your campaign. As you can see here, there's a little ABC, some stickers to go on there. This is going to keep track every time you do a scenario. You're going to cross it off and write where you're at to keep track. Scallywag and Swashbuckle, we'll explain that later. And finally, this is the map features, like we talked about. And there's a new special one, a tentacle, which we're about to see soon. I'll explain some of those rules later, but now we're going to get right back to the logbook. And Theseus says, I know I could have finished it faster. I've made a dozen of new ones for other folk, but every time I touched a plank, I'd think of them. He wiped away at his eyes. And I knew once I finished, I'd have to give it to you and I'd lose them all over again. And in a way, I'd lose you Minas this time too. But there's got to be shipbuilders and there's going to be pirates, my dears. And he rummages through something and pulls out a chest. Oh, and also this. From envelope B that we opened, we're going to take out the flag board and the 3 sticker sheets. And you're going to create your parents' flag. Here is their flag, and then here is a variety of stickers. And you can use whatever you want. You can make whatever you want. I thought it'd be fun to show off the one that I made back during playtesting. This is hung up on the fridge, as you can see. Wonderful Melvin and Boris. And don't quite know what that was supposed to represent, but this will be our flag for the journey. But of course, players will then make the flag using whatever, anything they want. That is part of the game. I'll put these away for now because we already have our flag nicely made and terrifying anybody else who sees it on the open seas. Back to the logbook. You look at your flag and you have a flash of memory. Seeing that flag always meant your parents were coming home. Theseus nods as if reading your thoughts. Well, look at that. It's a piece of them and a piece of ye. And with this ship, I hope a little piece of me. It means folks will know who's coming. That flag will cause fear and awe to enemies. The cats are great for this. It'll help you find our friends. Be careful, you know who's who. He pulls you away from the ship and you walk the familiar path towards your own home on the cliff overlooking the ocean. In this area of the cove, you look out and you see the strange tentacles that have been there since you were young. Darndest thing, that squid grass. Been there so long, it's like they have a life of their own. Never did leave, did they? At first, they just floated there in the water moving. Now they're starting to swipe at ships coming in, and we can't have that. So here's your training. You're going to take that ship and clear out them suckers. I haven't put enough armor on that hull for you to ram them direct yet. So you better be careful on what you hit. But the new cannons I have for you, they work like a treat. All right, I'm getting sentimental. Go out and clear out that front yard. Yeah, I know it's water. You know what I mean. Now it says to open up to the second scenario, which is yard work, as you can see here, and open up, ooh la la, envelope C. Coming out are now, very slowly coming out, are tentacles. Here we go. That's what I'm talking about. As you can see on the map here, the gorgeously illustrated map, here's your uncle's cove, and here it is filled with tentacles. So on each of these tentacle spots, we're going to put a tentacle meeple. We're going to put our ship at the start here, and ooh, what is that? Who knows? Alrighty, here we have the game set up for the second scenario, yard work. And if you're just watching this just to cut in right here to see what is new with Sail Legacy, this is the perfect place to be. The goal in this one is to kill as many tentacles as you can in 3 rounds. We have the round tracker right here, and that is one of the ways the round will end. The other way the round will end is if you get to 0 on the life tracker down here. But thankfully, your ship starts with 10 life, and it also has the wonderful new ability of being able to turn 180 degrees before any trick. It also shoots here and here, like we chatted about. So I have placed all the tentacles flat, just so it looks better from this kind of top-down point of view, but you could, do that. Anywho, how this game is going to work is similar
to the first scenario, you're going to set up the deck, you're going to have some into the reserve, and then deal each player to their hand size. Our players currently have a hand size of 9 and a trick limit of 4. They also have the abilities of moving with a wheel toward the winner of the trick, moving with the wheel tentacles, but taking a damage when you do that. Now we have the firing, where if you play cannon, it shoots toward the winner, and then cannon wheel, I lost my words there, will flip a reserve card, and depending on that symbol, it will either, if it's a wheel, you can move toward either player, you can choose, or fire toward either player, and you can choose also that as well. Also, players have a task they're trying to complete depending on the hobby they had. This player has a mental task because they like tricks, and they're trying to lead with blue cards. So, coming to their hand, they are going to do an exchange, and maybe they pass over this 2 in green. And then this player over here, their whole thing is they want to lead a 5. So but they know their partner wants to lead blue. So maybe they pass a blue to their partner. And whoever is closer on the diamond will lead. Here we are at the first trick, and before any trick, again, they can, if they want to, use the simple rudder, which allows them, as you can see, your ship can turn 180 degrees before any trick. And you do have to make that decision before you start leading because movement is forced in the game, but we'll get into that later. So they are facing this way. And there is an exclamation mark, which is a map event, where if the ship lands on that, you're going to read from the logbook that section, and it's going to be an event that you do immediately in the middle of the scenario. But maybe there's more tentacles over here, and it does say kill as many tentacles as you can. So maybe players are like, let's turn around. So they're going to flip and go that way. And table is going to lead a blue. And what that does is it now lets them check off their task of leading a blue. So they have 1 check on their personal task. That's awesome. So it is must follow. So coming to trick over here, they have to play a blue. They're going to play that. So that was tentacle wheel. What that's going to do is going to damage their ship 1. So boop, and then boop. They're down now down to 9 life, but they are going to move toward the winner. So it's going to move that way. This person is going to collect the trick, and then they're going to lead to the next trick. Maybe, because now they have tentacles on both sides of them, they want to start shooting. They don't have any 5 to lead because that would be great for their task, but they don't have it. Maybe next time their partner could have passed them a 5. Come on. Anyway, so they lead the 4, and this player over here is going to do it. They're going to play the 5. And how shooting works, it's just like moving. It depends on the player that won. So this player won, and it's going to shoot toward the player that won. And it's going to shoot that diamond that is just to the right. So if you needed a helpful player aid, it's going to shoot, boop, right there. And thankfully, right there is a tentacle. You're going to take the tentacle, you shot it off, and you're going to add it to your ship. You can put it there. Sometimes you just put it on the ship up there. But you're going to want to keep track of that because that is part of the goal right now, is to kill as many tentacles as possible. Some players, if they want, they can pop out this punch board and put on this clear water token over that tentacle just to indicate, hey, that is clear. How we play is we just know that if there's not a tentacle there, then you're good, but it's just like a preference thing. So now the player will collect the trick as usual and then lead to the next trick. Maybe they want to start blasting again, and they did again lead with a blue. Wow. Good job, Trick. That was actually a table. It's Trick's turn now to play the 7. And wheel and cannon is now the reserve action. So they're going to flip it, and it was a tentacle, sadly. Boo. So this person still takes the trick and leads to the next trick. Maybe they think, hey, we should start moving and get it out of here. So they're going to lead that 8. This player is offsuit, so they can play whatever they want. They're going to play this 8, and offsuit symbols still work. High Soletsu is going to win, so this player is going to win, and they won a movement, so it's going to move toward them. And now what's interesting is maybe the players are like, you know what? Let's start ramming. So if they choose to, they can flip the ship again this way. Let me spin that around. And now if this player wins, they're going to ram right into a tentacle. So ramming is a new thing in this game where, let me just show it off. If the player's ship moves toward something like an NPC or a tentacle, it will ram them. And depending on the life, either it will kill it and take over its spot, or they will both bump and both take damage. The tentacles just have like 1 life, so super simple here. It's going to move at the tentacle, ram into it. It's going to take and deliver 1 damage each, so it's going to go down to 8, but the tentacle is going to die. So awesome, we got that tentacle rammed.
So this player takes this trick, and maybe they want to do that again. They're feeling spicy. Coming over here, they have to follow suit. So sadly, they lose 1 life because it's wheel tentacle, boop, and then they move, boop, and hit another tentacle. So they lose another life. Wow, they are just cranking through life. At the end of this trick, however, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, they have hit this player's trick limit, which was 4. And so that is going to end the round. There's no book to read at the end of this round. You're just going to move to the end of the round, and then you're going to collect, shuffle, and set up for the next round. Here we are at the exchange phase, and table's going to do a much better job now by making sure to pass a 5 to their partner. They don't want to be greedy like last time. And over here, trick is going to keep doing their thing by passing over a blue. And they're going to lead because they're on to their turn. Maybe they're going to play the 8 because they want to start moving toward them. Nice. And then maybe they think they should move once and shoot the tentacle instead of ramming it, just because they can't keep just doing all this damage to themselves. So they're going to play the 4. So since they played wheel and cannon, they're going to flip a preserve, and depending on the symbol, that is the cannon here, they can move toward either player. So right now players can choose either to ram the tentacle, take a damage, but get another tentacle, or play it safe and go to the left. Maybe they're just going to play it safe because they already have lost an okay amount of damage. And so now table has won, and they are going to, they really want to shoot the tentacle while they're here. Maybe they'll play that and see what happens. So over here, this player, when you land on an event space, you're going to immediately read the event. It's event number 11, and here we are. While they're strange, you've grown up seeing suckers coming out of the water. Some are long and slender, others are shorter and thick, but all have a similar hue. This one is different. It's covered in purple suction cups, and it glows? Is it a new species? Will it gets killed as easily as the rest of them? Only one way to find out. Do you try to do you try to kill it, cut off a piece of it, or leave it? Let's kill it. So we're going to read number 18 and then continue the scenario. So when you read an event, it'll come out as a card, and it'll have some of the explanation of what's happening. So kill it. You've spent enough time around tentacles to know they ain't good for nothing. Fire the cannons! Flip this card at the end of the scenario. So we're going to take this, set it aside to see what happens later. And now the scenario continues. So we were 3 tricks deep on table over here. Maybe they decide to lead this, and they've led another blue, so we'll have to cut that. Oh, and this is great. So this player over here is going to play a 4. Let's flip this, and it's a cannon, which is wonderful. So when you flip a cannon, you can shoot either direction. They're definitely going to shoot this direction to be able to kill that one there. And this is going to cross off for another lead blue. But sadly, this is going to be the 4th trick, which is going to end the round. So that 5 pass didn't even help. Wow, table, good job. They are working a lot toward their goal and not really a lot toward their goal. But we're going to now move to the 3rd round and shuffle and deal and get started on the very last round of yard work. So we've dealt an exchange, and now I think table was saying they actually want to turn around and start going this way where all the tentacles are at. So it's their turn now. They're going to lead a low blue, which is also going to start getting some check going. That is going to win for over here. And then this player is going to play an 8. Nice job, trick. And sadly, though, that is going to be a damage for the ship, but at least they're going to move up here. Let me make sure to check that off. And so now, this player is finally, trick over here, is finally going to start working toward their goal. They're going to lead with a 5. Oh, glorious day. They are going to check off, lead with a 5. They're starting to do it. So it is still must follow though. So coming over to the table player, they have to play that, which doesn't sadly do anything as of right now. So that player's going to take that trick, and they are a little nervous because now they're already on 3 tricks. This player's going to win, which is going to blast this. Absolutely wonderful. And then they're going to lead with another blue. I'm just going to move toward the players, down 1 more life. This is getting a little scary, but at least they led with another blue. And so now players are thinking, could go for that one. Do we have enough tricks to go for that? Maybe not.
So maybe they're going to turn like that. And so this player is going to lead the 8. We're just going to take the ship right there. And now both players at 3 tricks. They really only have one more trick to try and make it work. This player is going to lead the cannon. And thankfully, perfectly set up another final cannon blast. And that is the last trick for the round. Now, time to read number 12. After marking off nicely, one more for table. Now we're at the logbook for number 12. Well, let's see this crop of squid grass and find out how you did. Theseus peers at the tentacles you've dragged to the beach. If your ship reduced to life 0, grab tail card 21, which was not. If you have tail card 18 or 19, flip it now. We do. We have 18, so let's flip it and see what it says. There's no sign of that weird glowing tentacle in the hull you bring back. You must have blasted it well and good. Trash a card of rank 3 or lower from your action deck and trash this card. That is great. We're blasting tentacles. We're actually going to get rid of a card now. What card do we want to get rid of? Well, we like blues at least because of them. So maybe we'll trash this green 3 as opposed to like a blue or a red 3. All right, that's a good start, but now you're going to have to keep track of your pay. Your parents were some of the best pirates in the land, but the secret of their success was always they kept a good ledger tracking their booty. He pulls out a large book. Part of your training will be bookkeeping. For example, I'll need to pay you, but you can see that I've already deducted some of the cost of repairs. I did against the 5 gold from your inheritance. What? You think I wouldn't pirate some money from you? 'Twas all to get you started, so it was above board. Get it? Above board, as you can see up here, you're now going to unlock the ledger board. The ledger is going to have all of the cards that you could possibly get in the game, but also how many tentacles you've killed and your current gold. As you can see, Theseus already said you got a $5 inheritance, or gold, 5 doubloon gold inheritance, and he's already subtracted some, so you're now down to 3. How the left side of the ledger works is there is ledger stickers, and you're going to take over any of the ones that are applicable, like the fact that we actually have ones in the red suit, so we're going to put those right here. And then we can actually take our Sharpie and mark off 1 here. And if I remember correctly, we just trashed the 3 green. So looking at the 3 green, we can cross that off from our board. Next, Theseus tells us to keep track of the number of tentacles we've killed, and we're going to get a gold per tentacle. So that is 6. So we're crossing this off and going from 3 to 9. And then tentacle kills, we actually have 6 now. Going back to the story, Theseus goes, all right, tell you what, I'll throw in a little freebie for my brand new customers. What do you want, more moving or more shooting? You're going to unlock cards 29 and 30 and choose one of them to add to the deck, one of them to trash. Here are the 2 cards, and look at that. A 7.5 wheel and a 4.5 shoot. Maybe we're feeling like shooting. Let's add the 4.5 cannon. And we should make sure to put 4.5 here and add the cannon sticker there. And the 0.5s work as you'd expect. If you led this into the trick and someone played the 5, they would win, but whoop, if they actually played the 4, you would win. If we would have gotten down to 0 life, we would have had to check off the repairs section there. Also at the end of the scenario, you're going to cross off the one you just did and write the one you're going to do if you want to do it. And in addition to being done with this scenario, the logbook now talks about, in no time at all, you've mastered the basics and feel confident as you head out into the ocean. You've cleared out the squid grass, and Uncle Theseus looks at you with a glint of pride in his eye. He's run out of excuses to keep you here, and he knows it. So he goes off a little bit about how he has someone at the docks who can help you out over in Risatown. But now your uncle is telling you there is a job over yonder. You're going to get a little sticker and add to your map. And now we're going to head over to Risatown. So that was scenario 1. We're going to go into the final scenario for this video, scenario number 3. And this is going to kind of bring the full experience of Sail Legacy into fruition. Again, if you don't want any spoilers, totally stop now. But now we are about to turn the page. And here we have delivery. We're doing a delivery. So I will skip reading all of this. But essentially, we show up to the docks and we get a job. And the job says, hey, there is a cargo ship that is going to pick up these goods and deliver it to the port. But if you want, you can go get them first if you're going to be fast. Go over there and start going. And it also says, hey, you can go hire this crewmate to join your ship. So now it says you can unlock action cards 78 through 83. These cards are the crew, a lovable cast of characters. You're going to get one at random. Whoop. And what they are is they come in, obviously, all the different suits, but different varieties of either cannon or wheel. But they always have this up or down here. And what this does, this is a new part of the game, is the up and down means it's either the highest or the lowest declared when played. So it's just like a normal card. So let's say this was your hand, and if you lead it, you can say highest wheel, or you can say like lowest wheel. And then the other player, so say it was this hand, they would still have to follow, so they play that. So if they said it was lowest wheel, the 7 would win, but you're still doing a wheel action. But they could say it's the highest wheel, and this player will win for the wheel action. So there's just some flexibility on winning or losing because, again, rounds end at the trick limit. So a little crew to help you out there. So we have just added this crewmate. You're also going to apply a sticker to your ledger for where the crew goes, but didn't I mention how bad I was at putting stickers? I accidentally touched it to the board, and man, are these sticky. So it's hard to pull off, and now the bottom part won't stick very well, but I am going to just tape it. Oh man, this is already going wild. So then you are going to name your crew member. Let's call them Jimmy Johns? Jimmy's, let's call them Jimmys. There we go. Okay. And you are going to put on the symbol of what they are, which I'll do later. And now they are a crew member, a part of your growing wonderful ship and growing wonderful deck. The next thing to unlock before this mission is the Dark Tides card. And this is related to the Dark Tides deck. And as you can see, they have a note here. This board is actually supposed to be binded up at the top here. So it's actually, imagine like instead of these two hamburger style, it's almost like going to be hot dog style. So this is where you're going to put the Dark Tides deck, the discard in the reserve, and then this will actually go like kind of down here, whereas this will be up here. So it's a little bit thinner, so the players are a little closer together, but it's a little bit longer. For now, just because the binding got messed up on this small kind of prototype, it's going to be along the edge here. But how it works is you are going to take the deck and look through and take out all, you're going to take the deck and look through and take out all the 2s and below of all the suits. You're going to shuffle them, put it right on top of that deck. We're just going to put it right there for now. Maybe a little lower so it doesn't get too much into the action. Then you're going to do the setup as normal. You're going to shuffle this. You're going to deal to the reserve, player hand size. Then you're going to take out envelope D, and out comes, is that another ship and some cargo? What is this? So we're going to take out all the important little pieces. This is the Dark Tides cube. It's going to start on number 3. And this works similar to Sail, where at the end of the round, you're going to take cards off this track and put them back into the deck. And whenever this card comes up, your ship is going to take some damage, go to the bottom of the deck, and this is going to move up once. So instead of taking 3 cards out of the deck, you can take 4, and that's just going to keep bouncing higher and higher and higher. Next, we are going to add the new action. What this is whenever you play Cannon Tentacle, you're going to put that Tentacle card to the bottom of the Dark Tides deck. Again, this is very similar to if you've played Sail. And then the other special is you're going to add under the reserve actions. Whenever you flip a tentacle from the cards, you're going to put it to the bottom of the Dark Tides deck. And the other new fun special things that came out of the box were these 2 life cubes for the NPC. Also, a little cargo token that's going to go here on the cargo space. And then the courier, which is a brand new ship. We're going to put that right there. And might as well start setting up. You're going to take all of the tentacle tokens as normal and put them on the spots where you see the tentacle setup. You're going to put your start place on the spot. You're going to put your round marker on the thing. Whatever your ship's health is at, you're going to set that up. And no NPC meeple would be without its wonderful NPC card. So here is the courier. As you can see, people loading up some cargo on the dock. It has 1 life. It moves 2. It does never, oh my gosh, it never attacks. And then if it's destroyed, you're going to read that ability. So it says, the courier moves toward the cargo pickup. If it gets there, read 16. The courier can move in turn 90 degrees before each move. Wonderful. So we're going to move that right there. So now, moving that down again, players are going to jump right into it. Our goal is to get to the cargo spot, collect the cargo, and then deliver it to the destination before the courier does. So players are going to do the exchange like normal, and then again, the player closest to the diamond is going to lead to the first trick. Table started us off by leading with a blue, so they actually got another check off their task. They won it with an 8, so it's going to move toward them. Next, I think they are wondering if it'd be best, well, they're not actually sure which way it should move, so they're going to go with a 6. Coming to this way here, ooh, they have the new 4.5 harpoon. Maybe they play that. So it's going to flip this, and now they can choose which way they want to go. Maybe they want to go this way to blast that tentacle. So table won another trick, and maybe they'll play that. And sadly, this is going to shoot the other direction. So it's going to be a 1 trick by this player, but it's not going to count as a win. And I should say, I think Tentacle has a couple more of the blue leads. So then let's go to this player here. Maybe they think if they play red, it will count. Yes, that's perfect. They launch, they shot the tentacle, take that off. This player has taken their 3rd trick. They're a little nervous here. So no, table wants to win because they want to get further up, but also they kind of want to get out of the way. So they played that, which is either way, and they move up. And that is great. So that was their 4th trick, which was wonderful. So now how the end of round works is there's still the NPC phase. And again, the courier is going to move as fast as possible to the cargo. So they're going to move 2 spaces, 1, 2. Glad the ship moved out of the way, because if they didn't, they would have both collided. How collisions work, either if you hit an NPC or an NPC hits you, is the amount of speed remaining gets transferred into damage. So if we rewind a little bit here, and we're at this spot, and the courier's at this spot, and it runs into us, they had 1 more speed left, it'd do a damage to us, and then it would do a damage to itself. It only has 1 life. So that would have immediately destroyed the courier. They would have read what happens when they got destroyed, because they just rammed right into us, and that would have been a whole thing. But we have, thankfully, avoided that for now. And we are on to round 2. But before that, we do have to add 3 of these cards to the deck and reshuffle everything and get ready for the next round. We are at the start of the next trick, and both players, as they were shuffling and dealing, they realized they could just turn the ship around, and this player could win a trick and ram into that ship and just destroy it and not have to worry about that at all. But they decided, you know what, we're better than that. We're amazing pirates. We don't really care about that. Let's move on full steam ahead. So here we go. This player's going to lead with a 5 because that's their whole thing. They're trying to get this task done. And this is must follow for this player. And they decide they are going to play a 6, which flips this. They can move either direction. Maybe they want to move toward the event. That sounds good to them. And then what is amazing is this player is going to lead a blue. Maybe they lead the 1 blue. And immediately when they do that, they're going to cross off their last box. And once achieved, flip the card. So this happens immediately. So let's flip this up here. As you can see, all completed in its wonderful, wonderful glory. Gain the character trait Melancholic, number 21, and then trash this card. So this is going into Davy Jones's locker, and then we're going to go get that sticker. And here it is, the moment we've all been waiting for, the Melancholic trait. After you win a trick with a blue card, you may take the card your partner played into your hand. Amazing. So that is now going to go into the traits section for table. And now they're wishing, maybe they played a higher card. But that is all good. They played the 7. Trick is going to win it because they played the higher one. That costs 1 life because it had a tentacle in it. Oh, also I should say, these cubes are for NPCs that have more than 1 or 2 life. When you have just 1 or 2 life, it's easy to pay attention to, where if it has 1 life and it takes a damage, you just take it off the board. And if it had 2 life, you can lay it down,
kind of like in the hit popular TV series arcs. And then if it takes another damage, it just goes off the board. So those cubes are going to be used later for bigger, badder NPCs. But for now, the ship just landed on an exclamation mark, so we're going to go read what that is. You've never been here before, but there's something about that rock that tickles the back of your brain. A memory of Uncle Theseus, one of his tall tales about a rock. Yes, Glitter Rock, where pirates can always find gold. From your ship, you see something catch the sun and flash in your eyes. Uncle did always embellish. What do? Do you investigate or do you leave? Last time we just left. This time we're going to investigate and see what happens. Again, this is all spoilers. Don't look at this if you don't want to know, but we're just trying to do a little bit of fun here. Why not? Okay, Glitter Rock. You laugh when you discover there's no gold, but of course there isn't. But then you notice a piece of paper tucked into a crevice. Go get large card 9, flip it and place it in the cargo hold. Immediately end the tricks phase now. Trash this card. So we immediately end the tricks phase. That makes sense. We were digging around, but what did we find? What is this? Interesting. Okay. This is going in the cargo hold. I hope it was worth it because we immediately end the tricks phase, which means we're going to do the Dark Tides phase. It's going to add 3. Oh gosh, we really need to add some cards to that deck. That's going to get bad. And then the NPC is going to move 1, 2. Interesting. They were lined up right next to us. Here we are for round 3, and we tried to be good pirates. We really did. But if they're just going to line up right next to us, especially if we've just been sitting here by Glitter Rock, I think it's time to blast them. So here we go. We are going to lead a 4.5 blue to hopefully set up our partner, yes, to blast away. We play 2 cannons. That is going to shoot to our side here. That is going to do 1 damage to this courier ship, which has 1 damage. That is going to absolutely blast them. So now we're going to read Destroyed, 17. As you watch on as the courier cracks and crumbles down into the water and see their crew swimming about, you wonder, was this your fault? So now the game asks you, was this an accident? And you can say, yeah, kinda, or there are no accidents, which is what we're going to say, although we could say it was an accident. I mean, we were just shooting off the side. Let's say, though, there are no accidents. So now we're going to take tail card 27. If the courier had the cargo, we have the cargo now. We kind of stole it from them, but they don't. Remove the courier from the board and trash its NPC card. Off you go. But teaching moment before it goes, let's say the courier did not just get absolutely blown out of the water. And let's say we didn't get to the cargo in time. They're going to move 2 again at the end of the round. So that's 1, 2. They would land on this spot, which would give them the cargo. And then at the end of the next phase, like let's say we hadn't gotten to them yet, maybe we're just moving up here, maybe ready to attack them, they would turn 90 and go 1, 2. And then at the end of the final round, they would go 1, 2. So it has a 90-degree turn and 90-degree movement up the board. But in other words, they have been blasted off the map and the cargo is actually still there. And we have the card for blast in the ship. What other ship? As far as anyone else need be concerned, this job was given to you and you alone. You can't be worrying about what happens to other luckless sailors. Flip this card at the end of the scenario. So we're going to put it, boop, right there. And going back to the trick phase, what's interesting is we actually have just done 1 trick, and it was Table who led and won. And remember, it says when you win with a blue card, you can take the card your partner played and put it into your hand. So why not? Let's take this card. So now we have 1 extra card. This still counts as a trick, however, and so that's going to just go off to the side. And now we are going to lead again. We think that our partner should probably win this one. So we're going to lead with a 6, and they actually don't have any of those cards, which we did not know. Wild. So they're going to go like that. That's going to run us into the rock, and we're going to take a damage. That's another trick. And so now we know green is not the best suit to lead. Maybe we lead with a red, a low red. And so this player now is grateful because we're going to blast it. And again, when you blast a tentacle, it goes to the bottom of the Dark Tides deck. And then now they're going to lead with a 7, hopefully get some movement going. And that is correct. They are going to play an 8. So then this ship will now move here. And this player is going to capture the trick. And they know they're out of red, so maybe they play
this, which is great because these players need to start Cullen. And this player one, they only have one more trick. They're wondering if they're gonna do another one. They're a little bit nervous about it. Even though it's not the most efficient, it is gonna be the most beneficial. So that is it. That is the last trick, because that player will capture that. So that's the end of the round. There's no NPC to move. And so now you're just gonna clean it up. So when this comes up, so they have to draw 3 cards. They can draw 1, 2, 3. When this comes up, they are going to increase this, lose a life, and then move it to the bottom. So they lost a life, increase that, and then they had to draw 3. So 1, 2, 3. You don't have to draw 4, even though that bumped up mid-round. You still will, should be like that. You still will move it up to the next number though, just in case, because there could be a situation where if they haven't cleared anything, that would have triggered again, which is a little brutal. But you always just look at the number you're going to draw at the start of the Dark Tides round, and then draw that many. It's not like it keeps increasing. But things are getting a little hairy for them because it's the 4th round and they don't even have the cargo. Starting off the first trick, played the 6. So table plays the 8. That's going to move them into this tentacle. So they're going to capture another tentacle, but take another damage. And then table is going to lead a 7. Coming over here. Now, trick is actually out of the green suit. So they're going to play that. It's going to move them one more step closer. And then knowing that, maybe they play the 2 in green. They're going to cannon that just in case, because they don't want to get hurt. And then they're actually a little nervous. They're going to play the 4.5. And what's great about this is they could win it. Going to fix that there. And yep, it was a wheel. And so even though Trick won it, they can move toward the cargo and capture the cargo. And they're actually going to turn the other way now. They have the cargo, which is wonderful. And now Trick is going to lead to the Trick. No, they want to start winning. So they're going to play the 8 in red. And that is going to be good. 1 movement up. They notice they're out of red, which is good and kind of bad. They don't have that much life left, but they're going to keep going for it. Table thinks it's probably better just to shoot that one. So that's going underneath. And Trick won that one. And for the final trick, they're probably still going to lead red to maybe at least move a bit. And they are at, sadly, the payment of 2 tentacle damage. But they're close. They can see the destination in sight. On to the final round. So now they're going to be adding 4 cards. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. These go into the deck. This was a damage and an increase again. Yikes. They're only at 3 life. It's getting a little bit hairy, but hopefully they cross the finish line before they have to do that again. Starting off, they decide to flip the ship that way just in case they might accidentally shoot something. They might as well shoot a tentacle, and then they're going to lead a 7, which Trick is going to play an 8, capture that, and then move on up to their spot. Then they're going to play a 5 just in case, hey, if I shoot, why not? But they both know that a 6 and a possible wheel here is probably more valuable right now. And it was. That is amazing. So they are going to go this way. Don't know why they decided to do that perfectly, but that is what they're going to do. And then they're going to turn like this back. But the good thing about that is at least that Trick went to table, who then is going to lead with a 4.5. Trick's going to take that one. I'm realizing I probably shouldn't have named this character Trick. This is getting confusing. But they're going to flip this again, which is amazing. And they're going to move this way. Going to take this, which is a damage. Oof. But now they're going to flip this way. And they can see the home in their sights. Here we are at a very important decision here. As you can see, table over here has a 3 and a 2, which they can play. It will cost 1 damage. And so now the players will be down to 1 life. Or they could play the wheel, which will flip one of those, which might not be a wheel. So they're actually going to play that. It's going to move the players 1 more. That's going to cause 1 more damage. They're down to 1 life. Players are going to flip this. So if this player can win 1 more wheel movement trick, they do win. Because just like Sail, if you die and win at the same time, you win. But what card do they play? These are probably all losing, right? There's no way. So they're going to play this, hopefully, and see what happens. Sadly, the only other card was the 5. So this player is going to win. They can take this into their hand. Maybe they do, but they're going to put that there. This isn't looking too hot because unless the other player has like a cannon, that can maybe work. This is not looking good at all. But we know the wonderful trick. If this player wins with a blue, and they're going to lead that blue, this player may take the card into their hand first. So there can be some really clever things happening here. Like if this player plays the 1, this player can take it up into their hand. They have 3 tricks. And now this player plays that 1, and this player plays a 3, and you move. They do take 2 damage, but they got to the goal first, which takes precedence, so they finally did it. Whew, that got so close. And thanks to the melancholic ability, we did it. So here we are at the end, and again, how it all works out is you're going to read that passage if you hit it, or if you die, or if you get to the end scenario without doing any of that. You're going to keep track of the tentacles you kill. So we got 3, so we're up to 9 now, which is amazing. That looks like an A. And then you are going to read any cards that we had. So this says flip over at the end of the scenario. So we destroyed that ship, and we get 5 gold and 1 scallywag reputation. So we plunder them, and we're going to go up on the scallywag track, and plus 5 gold. So now we're sitting at 14. We can save our progress for later, which is what we're probably going to do, because I'm going to show off scenario 4 in the next video, the spoiler video. I feel like this is a good stopping point if you want to just see what Sail is, what the flow is, all the wacky, fun, cool things you can do in it. And in the spoiler video next, I'm going to show off a few more scenarios, but those do get much more heavy spoilers, much more indicative of what like this track does, and like some other fun stuff that is definitely spoilers. Whereas this is essentially at the end of kind of showing off the new fun stuff in Sail, which is the NPCs, the movement, the tentacles, the shooting, and kind of swapping, going 180 degrees that way, 180 degrees the other way, and then also the tasks, all the abilities, the crew, all that type of stuff. So thanks so much for watching. Again, next video is going to cover more, but for now, we're going to go to a designer diary, how I designed all of this wild stuff in this bad Larry. As you can tell, the hour is getting long, but before we go into the designer diary, I do want to say, you know how we have been collecting gold? Well, right after this mission starts, we go to a new town, and as you can see, there's some new things to buy, but I'll let you discover that when you play. Yar! Welcome to Sail Legacy Design Diary, and whew, that was quite the teach. I know some people don't mind spoilers and like watching a lot, so I included a fair amount there. And just to block some scurvy, might as well crack open this limoncello. I'm sure it has the vitamin C I need. Me and Melvin here talking design diary. So, Sail Legacy. What a wild concept. So, Legacy games, because it's like a campaign. Oh, later, boys. I am realizing that I can't drink this and do a design diary because there's not 2 of us here talking. I can't time my sips. So this is just going to sit here as an ad for the best LaCroix flavor, limoncello. Anywho, so how did it all start? Well, yes, Joe, COO of All Play, co-host of The Bits, reached out, called me and said, what do you think about Sail Legacy? And I immediately was so excited. And I was like, wow, that sounds like an amazing concept. And he's like, what do you want to design it? And I immediately, just so many ideas, so many possibilities just went through my head. It was one of those, I don't know if you have those moments where, have you ever like thought so much in the middle of a conversation that you have this like, oh, have I not said anything in a while? Especially over a phone call, which is what it was, where you don't have the body language of like, he couldn't see my jaw on the floor. And so I said, absolutely, I love that idea. I would love to design this. My main game group of my friends Ben, Alex, and Shay, we play loads of Legacy games. Loads of them. We love them. I think it's a mix of that surprise, the fact that you're sitting with a game for a while. We tend to sit with games for a while and kind of explore them. But I think what's interesting is, even with a game like we were playing Lost Ruins of Arnak, or I think we had a good amount of root going on. But I think even with a game
like that. We try to play it a good amount of times, like 10, 15 plays of those games in like a small window of time is a lot. And what's interesting is a legacy game kind of just does that inherently. So we've just loved those types of games, and I just started going wild. I think trick taking and legacy is such a wonderful combination, and like, what can you do with that? I have talked with some other trick taking fans and folks, and I think trick taking is interesting in that you want to get into like a rhythm and a flow state, and you kind of also want to know how the deck is built up. Like there's so many things that trick takers love, and it was interesting to meet that trick taking genre feeling love with a feeling of always changing and impermanence. I guess permanent changes, kind of the same. And how do those two? They aren't at odds, but how do those two kind of ideas kind of mix together? And immediately I was just start thinking about all this stuff because I love Sail. I absolutely adore it. I have actually a funny history with Sail. Like I did as one of my parody videos of all of the Watch It Play channel. So like Paula and Monique and Naveen as like a Watch It Played thing for Hamel Cave back in the day. And it has always just been a game that has meant a lot because it also was indicative of a really fun time when I was going to Japan and finding really fun games and showing it to folks. And even in the middle of that Watch It Played video, I don't know if I talked about this, I was on one of those scooters and I had Hamel Cave in my backpack and I got into like a pretty bad accident and like hit my head and got like, was like bleeding and had to get to the, not emergency room, what's that, immediate care? But I remember getting into the crash and being like, I hope Hamel Cave is safe. Which is, I should say, Hamel Cave is the Japanese edition that became Sail. I probably should have led with that before I talk about that story. But, and then I was the developer on Sail, and I developed that game from Hamel Cave. And then for the expansion, I, designed a lot of the characters. So I've had a wonderful relationship with Sail. It's just been, and Hamel Cave, it's just been quite the game. So then to be asked to do a legacy version of Sail was another wild, continuous journey in the Sail, Hamel Cave, Taylor kind of mixture of my life. So I don't know if it's still a design diary anymore. It's more of a diary, but it means a lot. And so I was very, very excited, and I wanted to put a lot into this game. And I think I have. I've spent many sleepless nights ruminating on what could be in this game, how to implement certain ideas that I had, what could go in, what kind of has to go out. I think working with Joe has been great because he has reined me in great ways. I don't want to say too much about spoilers for what could happen in Sail Legacy or those whereabouts, but there are some ideas in there that are absolutely wild. And I would go to him and be like, what do you think? And he'd be like, yeah, let's do it. And I think I'll talk about it in the spoiler designer diary later, but there are just like some ideas that I to this day don't know how I got the green light, but I'm so glad they're in there. I think it's what makes the game have this personality that I'm so excited for folks to see. So back to that idea of trick taking and legacy, I run into moments of like, how do players keep track of the cards in their deck? How do they handle kind of knowing what's in a growing deck? And if you've watched a little bit, there is a solution to that I'll go more into the spoiler design diary. But I think a lot of that would come up. There'd be like, oh, I wonder what you could do with this. And then it'd be like, well, I don't know if that quite works with Legacy or quite works with trick taking. And it's been really fun to come up with solutions to those. I think also I have been watching a lot of videos on Sail and reviews of Sail leading up to kind of ruminating on some thoughts. And I've noticed folks, they want more story in Sail. And I think the great part about Sail Legacy is leaning into that story and seeing what that is. I love designing for different angles. I think that's been a big kind of sub journey that I've been on, is not only getting into design, but noticing how different designers do design and kind of dabbling into that. So like Chai Tea Jazz that I worked on with Chris and Sean, that was kind of Sean's design philosophy, which is awesome, is like you can take an older game with really great bones and build on top of it and add really fun modern twists and modern game design and kind of like a robust fit to the game, which actually kind of feels a little bit like developing in a way. And so I brought a little bit of that into Sail Legacy. Was what could you add if you could just do anything you want to Sail? What would you add? And so again, if you've seen it, there's new ship abilities, there's new goals, there's like sub goals on goals. And then also more to the legacy side, I've played a lot of legacy games, and I won't name them, that fell a little short for me. But some of them, you didn't quite feel attached to either the people you were playing as, or the family you were playing as, or the different characters that you might be embodying. And so I wanted this game to lean into players really caring about the character that they play and having that sense of control and ownership. In fact, part of the design that I was doing, which was so tough, and I can definitely get into it, was playtesting this game was very difficult, just because it's a legacy game. And sometimes you're playtesting for surprises. Sometimes you're playtesting for, does the scenario that I just came up with work at all? And then sometimes you're playtesting for, oh, I don't know what the deck will look like. I don't know what players' ships will look like, what their powers will look like when they get to this scenario. Will it be too easy? Will it be too hard? Will it be overpowered? And I definitely got a lot of good playtesting in with folks, but there got a point where I couldn't keep playtesting with the same people to just do small tweaks. So I started doing solo, like power level playtesting, where I would just kind of set up randomized ship and players and do just myself. I'd be playing both hands and trying to see how it would be in terms of difficulty and complexity, or whether it's too easy or hard or whatever. And it got to the point where I was even getting attached to running two characters at a time. And when I would change up to do a different thing, I was like, oh man, wait, is that this character? And I would try to give them names. And so I have in my mind over the course of this design, just come up with a whole cast of characters that I think of. Even in that playthrough, I came up with the character's Trick and Table, which you might have seen. The playthrough was a bad name to come up with the name of a character named Trick in a trick-taking game, because I got those confused a lot. But even in my mind, I know that table is a melancholic, spoiler alert, well, I guess that doesn't quite make sense if you didn't even watch it. But long story short, I love legacy games where you care about the characters and you can attach the characters and they are who they are. And I'll get more into the spoiler design, but I tried to lean into tweaks that would make players care about that. Because I've played legacy games where I'm supposed to be a family or a lineage or something, or I'm supposed to be a character, and I'm just like, okay. But I've played some that nail it, and I feel like I'm part of that family, or I feel like I'm that character, and I try to lean more into that. And I think there's some legacy games that are so stellar at that feeling of attachment as you grow on. But to the trick taking, I talked about it earlier, but coming up with new goals for Sail, because classic Sail is just go from left to right. Go from left to right, harder or longer, which I think that is what Sail is. It's this building challenge, and you can have different fun maps. I think that was part of the fun with designing the expansion, was coming up with some fun new stuff, having new tiles, having fun new pirate powers that kind of play with things. But now that we have the map booklet or whatever, kind of like how Jaws the Lion did it. And funny enough, Sail was kind of like Gloomhaven in that it had a bunch of tiles, right, that you would build up the scenario. But in this one, you still have that set up, like you still, put tokens out, or you put your ship out, or an NPC ship out. But it's so much quicker to flip and just get going, which in a campaign, you kind of want the setup to be as fast as possible. But then in addition to that, it lets us do much wilder stuff. Like instead of having to fit on this rectangle, I can make a circle, a little donut track. Or there's some fun ones later on that get super skinny or get super spirally. I mean, I'm not trying to do too many spoilers, but it was so fun to take the reins of what is Sail and just go wild with it. In fact, I remember when is my hat falling? I remember talking to Joe, and Joe was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Sail Legacy, let's go. Like, make it. Show it to me later, and we'll go for it." So I went off. I made some ideas. I came up with a bunch of ideas. I came up with an X, Y, and Z plan, and yada yada yada. And I showed it to him, and I was so nervous. And he's like, "Sounds good. Let's do it." And then later on, I started showing him the first few things, and I was super nervous because they were very different, or like they were growing, right? And I think he was like, "Oh, okay, like, so this is going to be in like the bigger box size." And I was like, "Ooh, I kind of have a lot of ideas where the story is going to go," because I did. So I would design all the scenarios. I designed all the story. I'll put up here. Oh no, that's actually kind of a spoiler. I had like a really big Excel sheet for where the story went, and then attached to that Excel sheet was the mission, and then in that mission, it would say the type of mission, whether it was like a huge surprise, or not, because I wanted the surprise flow to be good. And then I had a document attached to it with all the assets to it, with like the map assets, if there was an NPC or not, and then any like new cards or any new meeples or whatever. And I created this huge spreadsheet. And then in addition to that linking of the spreadsheet, I wrote the whole like logbook. And what I did was I wrote out, because we have an amazing writer, Julie, and I wrote out the gist of what would be happening in the scenario. Like, you are running into this person and yada 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 happens, and I'm trying not to spoil it. And then I would write down the rules for the scenario. And then afterward, it would be like, did this happen, this happen, kind of like what was going on. And I wrote them all out for it was like 40, over 40? I'm trying to remember the exact number of scenarios. But, so I wrote them all out, and I showed Joe, and Joe was like, okay, there's a lot going on. I'm like, yeah. So I know it's not the final box size, but this game has convinced all play to go out of their 3 box size. So they have the tiny box, small box, and then the big box, large box. I don't know what it's called. But now Sail is going to be in a special new size. My bad, I guess. I went wild. I went super wild. In fact, there are a lot of ideas for afterward, what you can do with the game. I think that was a big thing for me. I think my favorite Legacy games are ones that you do stuff with afterward. I remember playing Risk Legacy, my first Legacy game, and we finished it, and we had the board, and we had all the cards, and I was like holding it, and I'm like, what do I do with this? It's over. And it was such a wonderful experience and so fun. And we were like taking photos, and we're like, do we frame the board? Because we saw some people online had like framed the board. And like some friends wanted to keep their like factions as mementos. But it got to a point where you're like, okay, well, we could be like Rado, who made it so like his Pandemic Legacy can be replayed, which is a cool idea for sure. But I don't really know if, we're going to be able to do that because, we don't live together. So we're going to introduce new people to a played-on version of Sail or the Pandemic Legacy. And so then we sadly were just like, okay, I guess we'll throw it away. But then more and more games came out like Clank Legacy or Ticket to Ride Legacy, where the game board is like little spoilers for Clank Legacy and Ticket to Ride Legacy. The game is playable afterward on the board. You got things like that, where it's like, oh, this is cool. You can kind of have like a playable thing. And my goal was to do... There's a variety of things you can do after the game. I don't know if all of them are going to be announced, but the plan is to definitely keep your shipping characters. There's going to be stuff after that I'm super excited about. Again, I don't know if this is going to be announced or when. I'm going to leave that up to all play. I'll keep my lips closed, but you can definitely use the game afterward, and in multiple ways. So that's exciting. That's fun. So super excited about that. That was a big point of the design for me, was after campaign use, being attached to the characters. These are just like legacy goals. Being attached to the characters after campaign use, permanent changes. We're doing a recharge pack. That's exciting. That was a big one for me because don't want to spoil it, but you can play it differently. You can make choices in this game, and kind of like a fun story to tell. I don't want to get too highfalutin, but I tried to come up with a story that is not too like hammering on the head, because I do love like a diegetic story where like the players create their own story. They're their own people, they're their own pirates. But I do have I have wisps of a story in there, and like ideas and like questions about... I mentioned the themes and I cut it out. But it was also really fun working with a writer. I know Joe made an amazing point with Julie, who is our amazing writer, that having the writer name on the box for a legacy game is important. And also, I worked on the story, I outlined the whole story, and then like I would leave notes for what the scene was, and Julie would just knock it out of the park. I would be like, and sometimes it was like tonally, because like I make jokes, like I'll have like a funny part, and then like later on it's like a sad part, and then like a whoa, surprising part, and she would just hit all these notes. It was so amazing to reread. The aspect of working on a game to develop it, so from Hemel and Cave developing it into sale, and then working on the design of it, was really surreal. I don't know many other examples. I'd be curious to know if anyone's done development on a game and then they design the legacy version of that game. There's not that many legacy games, so this has been a very unique and interesting experience. I went to a con and I ran into... The battery died because I'm talking way too much. But I went into a con and I ran into Matt Leacock of Pandemic Legacy fame and everything else fame, and just an amazing, amazing person. And I asked him, like, how do you do it? How do you do a legacy game? This is so wild. Like, how do you playtest? How do you design for it? How do you handle players being anywhere? And he's like, come up with a good base and really try to hammer hone the foundation to where, once you have that deviance, you can kind of like guardrail people into where you kind of want them to go. It's interesting because I have like paths on paths in this game, and players can go pretty wild. And I'll talk a little bit more on that in the spoiler design diary. But it has been such an interesting challenge to make it to where the trick taking is still dynamic and interesting in the middle of these like bigger story beats. I love Sail. I think to Matt's point, having a good base in Sail has been fantastic. Like, I love that system of ship on a map. I almost said a spoiler. Ship on a map, and then having card play, must follow, pretty simple, and then symbols triggering those actions. I think that foundation has been really, really solid and really, really helpful for where it's jumped off of. It's been really interesting, and again, I'll cover this in spoilers. Sorry to keep saying that, but hey, watch the next video. It's been interesting also because this could be played by folks who have not played Sail at all and folks who have played Sail a ton. And balancing that, especially in the first few missions, was a really, really, really interesting puzzle. And I'll talk in that next one of how I did that and in like the kind of tricks, the kind of sleight of hand that I hope works to balance the game for beginners or folks who have played Sail a ton. Overall, this has been an absolute dream. I can't believe I'm so fortunate to work on Sail Legacy. It has been something that I continually am surprised to have the flexibility on, the absolute wild creativity that can happen, and to work with Weberson Santiago, who has an amazing collection of art for this game. I'm blown away. I would come up with wild ideas like, what if they do X, Y, and Z? And then Joe's like, okay, yeah, I'll go get Weberson to do the art. And then Weberson will send the art and I'll be like, ah! It was wild to be like, to go from like wild idea to Weberson, come back and be like, this is a thing. This is a physical thing now. So it's nuts. I'm continually surprised, continually grateful for this. It means a lot, and it's absolutely wild. And the graphic designers, and it's in the rules editor Jeff. Like everyone who's worked on this has just been absolutely amazing. It's been wild. It truly has. So I don't know. Maybe later I'll do like because the next video is going to be a spoiler designer diary. But maybe in a few months I'll do like, or sorry, a few months after it comes out. It's not gonna be out in a few months. Once folks have played, it'd be fun to do like where are they now? Like a VH1. This is what I was thinking of when I designed it, and to go through it like fully, because that'd be really fun. But all that said, it has been absolutely wonderful. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you do try it out. I hope you get your Sail Legacy on. I absolutely went nutty on this game, and I hope it shows. It's been interesting to work on this, and we have finished development on the Return of the King now. So that's working on like 4 campaign trick-taking games. It feels like I have a really specialized, wild skill set now. It's like one of those things where you go to a party and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, very specific. Trick-taking is like a very specific card game genre, and I'm doing narrative-based campaigns on it. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, I don't exist because the story's fake, because I've never said that at a party. But it is wild to have worked on this, especially because Sail, like a legacy versus a campaign, has been absolutely wild. Because with the Lord of the Rings, you're resetting every hand, right? And like you have this controlled experience. But Sail Legacy, I don't know where you're technically at the penultimate or like the last mission 100%, because there's just so many combinations, because you can do a variety of things to your deck. You can get a variety of different upgrades and such. So like, even though they are both, it's funny to be like, they're both trick-taking narrative campaign games, this one has just felt so different and so wild. So that was the design diary on Sail Legacy. I don't know if I covered everything. I have just rambled for so long. I'll probably bring up random stuff in the next one with full spoilers. But I just want to say thank you so much to Akiyama and Kozu for designing Sail, the original Sail. This has been such a blast to work on, and thanks everyone at AllPlay who has worked on this. And thank you for watching and possibly supporting the wild idea of Sail Legacy. Cheers. Thank you. You're the best. I'm gonna go change this outfit because I can't go out on the town like this. Anyway, all right. Thanks so much.